welcome to Expeditionary Learning's Part 7 on intervention and differentiation. Please make sure that you have access to your handouts, as well as a place to take notes and do a quick write. So please first pause and answer the question, why do different children need different support? And what have you done in the past to support them? Please unpause when you've answered the question and are ready to move on. Thank you. I know you've already done a lot of work to support every student in your classroom. Today, we're going to become familiar with different ways to differentiate within expeditionary learning, as well as some of the supports that are already built into expeditionary learning lessons. But first, differentiated instruction. What is it? Differentiated instruction is an approach to teaching in which teachers actively plan so that all students can best learn. This is thinking about the data of your individual students and trying to decide what each student needs in order to be successful with those learning targets. In a differentiated classroom, teachers can divide their time, resources, and efforts to effectively teach students who have various backgrounds, readiness, skill levels, and interests. This varies classroom by classroom. And finally, differentiation provides extra support in both pull-out and push-in sessions for a student, a group of students, or even full class instruction in any area where students need extra support. Differentiation is not a checklist or a list of things that we can do. It varies from classroom to classroom. It can involve pushing in, which means to move in and help a group of students, and also pulling them separate from the group in order to support them. As you may recall, every lesson in expeditionary learning provides recommendations for supporting your diverse learners. A column that follows every step of the lesson is titled Meeting Students' Needs and provides opportunities for you to meet the needs of the diverse learners in your classroom. Here, you see recommendations for full group support, as well as supporting struggling readers and English language learners. Sometimes, intervention and support can be a simple, spontaneous action. It can be reminding students of what they're working towards in the lesson target, helping just redirect their thinking to their goal. For example, remember right now what we're doing is using context clues. Have you used one of those yet? You can significantly increase wait time. Give students the opportunity to process. This is especially important when working with complex texts. Students need the opportunity to think first, as well as provided opportunities to do a quick writing activity or a stop and jot in order to collect their thoughts. You can say, tell me more about what you're thinking. What led you to that conclusion? Or talk to your partner and explain it in a new way, and then I want to hear your idea again. Give them some oral prompts that help them redirect their thinking to the topic at hand. You can direct students to the anchor charts, which are recommended within the curriculum, to remind them of the steps or the process they are taking. You can develop a I need help signal that students can show, i.e. they flip a red card on their desk. You can ask another student who's got it to share their work. Peer-to-peer learning is a powerful intervention tool. You can also model your own thinking after you've given students time to productively struggle. Often we see interventions that are planned out ahead of time in accordance with specific lesson needs. To reiterate, intervention is not a checklist. It must serve the lesson at hand. So you can prepare generic sentence starters and make them available for students so that they can begin their thinking in the right way. You can re-practice protocols to ensure that all students know exactly what to do within those. And definitely use the protocols, which are interventions in themselves, as powerful discourse and engagement tools. You can, as a class, analyze an exemplar of the work expected, clarify expectations, and give students the opportunity to ask questions. You can group students carefully. Homogeneous groups with adult support can help the most challenged students, but heterogeneous groups where some students struggle and some students are on level can really help students float all boats and increase that peer support and conversation. You can read the text aloud. There's very little times that reading the text aloud is bad unless that's the only time you're going to talk about the text. Read it with inflection. Hearing a master reader read with fluency and cadence is very important, especially to struggling readers. You can pre-highlight some of those key idea or moments that students don't need to search. Of course, you don't want to provide these for all students, only for the students that will really struggle. You can pre-annotate for some students some key ideas, structures, or vocabulary so that students have a model of strong annotation. Again, this is just for students that need it. You can also provide graphic organizers to help students organize their thoughts. Many graphic organizers accompany the lessons within this curriculum. A third type of differentiation is when we think strategically about the work that students need to produce, and we plan a little farther ahead. For example, we provide additional text-specific vocabulary work or supplemental text to help bolster content knowledge. If there are students that you know have very little knowledge about the upcoming unit, give them some information ahead of time. Help them come to that unit with confidence. You can chunk longer tasks or texts into shorter tasks and check more frequently for their understanding and get their feedback. You can tier the tasks, adding additional scaffolding or specifics directly to the tasks students are to complete. Graphic organizers are another way to support students into the content, but remember, graphic organizers are not the product. They are simply the support to help students access rigorous content. You can always provide an audio version of the text for students ahead of class. Repeated reading is a powerful way for students to increase their comprehension. Don't worry about the multiple exposures. You can predetermine smaller chunks of text students may grapple with and fill in the gaps of the whole text as a learning exercise. You can analyze a model of work expected, develop criteria, and involve students to applying that criteria to a second model. And if the skill or target under development is not going to be addressed in future lessons, make sure that you spend time there. And that's why it's so important to know your lessons and units well. If it's apparent that a skill or target or standard is not going to come up again in future units, you must ensure that your students really master that content. So on the discussion board, please. What are some strategies you can employ from this large list to differentiate within expeditionary learning? Where do you think your students might need more support? It might be helpful to think about that first unit you're going to teach and answer according to that first unit. Thank you so much for your attention, and I do hope that you'll return to these lists as you dig into the curriculum. Thank you so much. We'll see you for part 8.